Let's review the light-dependent reactions within photosynthesis using this animation. I know this looks really complicated, but this follows almost like a story from left to right. Remember that this membrane is the thylakoid membrane. The stroma is the liquid inside a chloroplast. The lumen is the liquid inside the thylakoids. It's all going to start here at PS2. PS2 stands for photosystem 2. Now you might be thinking, why they start with photosystem 2 and not 1? Well, when scientists were first naming the photosystems, they named them 1 and 2 and then realized they were backwards and started 2 and then 1. And they didn't go back and change names, so here we are. The first step of the light-dependent reactions is water breaking down at photosystem 2. Specifically, 2 water molecules will break down to produce 1 oxygen molecule. And this is where the oxygen comes from that we breathe. As water breaks down, it's going to donate 2 things. It's going to donate these hydrogen ions to the lumen. Remember that hydrogen ions are just protons. And it's going to donate electrons to PS2. Now, at photosystem 2, the electrons are going to become energized by the pigments within photosystem 2 absorbing light energy. They're going to travel down that thylakoid membrane in something called the electron transport chain. These fun-looking molecules are membrane proteins. As electrons travel down the electron transport chain, one of these membrane proteins is going to use the energy from the electrons to pull hydrogens from the stroma into the lumen. These electrons are going to be dumped off to PS1 or photosystem 1. Here, they're going to be re-energized by more sunlight. Important side note here, water doesn't break down at PS1, it only breaks down at PS2. At photosystem 1, the electrons are going to bind with NADP and a hydrogen ion to form NADPH. NADPH is going to go to the Calvin cycle or the light-independent reactions. We're not done yet. One of the main goals for the light-dependent reactions is to create this high concentration of hydrogen ions in the lumen and a low concentration of hydrogen ions in the stroma. What's going to happen is that these hydrogen ions are going to kind of want to even that concentration out. Basically, that means they're going to move through this enzyme called ATP synthase. And like the name implies, ATP synthase is going to make ATP. What's going to happen is these hydrogen ions are going to move through the ATP synthase from high to low concentrations. That's going to spin ATP synthase almost like a rotor. That spinning action is going to bond a phosphate group to ADP, making it ATP. Remember that ADP has 2 phosphate groups and is a low energy molecule, while ATP has 3 phosphate groups and is a high energy molecule. So basically, a lot of what's going on here is to create this hydrogen ion concentration to make ATP and NADPH. These 2 molecules are going to go to the Calvin cycle or the light-independent reactions. Why do they call it the light-independent reactions, though? First of all, if we don't have light, none of this is going to go on, because light is one of the first steps within this reaction. And again, if we don't have light, nothing else happens.